show us primarily that before we get a connection with our horse, we have to make sure that they are physically well and that their equipment fits them. Because if we have any of those problems, the connection and happiness of the horse can't happen.
My wife and I are going to talk to you about the physiology and the anatomy of a saddle and a horse and performance. What we hope to do, however, is to show you that these two performance problems that we see can be very intermingled.
There are really three things that affect saddle fit. The tree is the first, the second is the panels on the saddle, and the third is the placement of the girth billets. Almost every English saddle tree today is a spring tree of some sort or another. There's a very few companies that still do what's referred to as a rigid tree. The basic structure of the tree conforms to the basic structure of the horse that we're putting on. And this is hard even for us, because we'll get saddles in the shop and we honestly have no idea what that tree looks like. The only way we can tell what it looks like is to completely dismantle the saddle and take it out. With companies that we do a lot with, we actually have what's called the raw tree. The second part of this is the panels and the shape of the panel. The panel underneath the saddle is basically like a stuffed bag. It is a leather bag that's filled with something. And it can be filled with wool, it can be filled with foam, it can be felt. But basically it is the supporting structure that keeps the tree off the horse's back, and once again, everybody will have opinions of what's better. You know, a lot of people like wool because it can be moved around. You can do a certain amount with fitting it and adjusting it. A foam panel is what it is. If it doesn't fit your horse when you put it on, there is very little break into it. I won't say none, but very little. Sometimes this can be good if you're riding a lot of different horses. It may be advantageous to have a saddle that doesn't try to reshape itself to every different horse you put it on, because after a while the wool in the saddle just gets totally messed up and confused, and it will basically adjust itself toward the widest horse you put it on. Maybe the last significant thing I'm going to talk about is the placement of where the girth billets are hung on the saddle. The girth is what holds the saddle in place. I don't want you to have to pull the girth up so tight that your horse's eyes bug out of their head to keep the saddle on. If you do, the saddle really doesn't fit, or your horse is obese. The saddle in the front has what we call a point billet on the front, which actually comes right off the tree point. Remember what the tree points look like on the horse?
What do you remember the slide with the spinous processes sitting up in the air? Okay? And I told you that they moved this way, and they also can move this way or this way. What happens when all that pressure is right in here to the spinous processes that are sitting right here?
It pinches it and restrains it.
Exactly. They can't move. And if you ask the horse to move and that saddle is pinching those spinous processes, he's going to go, "No way, Jose." Okay, you get the first gold star. What's the difference between a front end lameness and a rear end lameness? Both bob their head.
Different bobbing, isn't it?
It's different bobbing. If the fast phase of that head bob is up, front end lameness. If the fast phase is down, rear end lameness. Okay?